What is up, expat fam? Welcome to part 4 of Matteo's Italian adventure, guiding bus and Vespa tours through Europe. In case you missed part 1, 2 or 3, you can catch up in the playlist link above. Before I begin, have you ever guided any tours through Europe? Let me know in the comments below. During my time at Italian school, I got in contact with the student tour company that I mentioned. And so very quickly, I managed to go through the interview process and snag myself an internship starting in fall 2016. So what was Bus to Alps? Well, Bus to Alps offered trips for students studying abroad in Europe. They were mainly American students, but anybody could go with them. My internship lasted from August to December of 2016, and it involved guiding tours by bus around Europe, as well as fly-in trips whereby I would fly to a city and all the other students would join me there and I would guide them around that city. My job involved online selling as well as in-person marketing. During the day, we also used to do flyer distribution, whereby we'd hand these booklets out to students on the street, as well as in pubs and restaurants. We'd put them there in our little folder and students could just find out about our trips. And our discount code was also on the front so that you got commission for any trip that they booked. We used to host weekly night and daytime events that ranged anywhere from free ice cream around Florence to free iced coffee to different pub events, weekly pub games and quizzes, as well as little events such as like mini Oktoberfest to promote our Oktoberfest trip. On top of the marketing side, we used to prep the trips and guide them as well. So the true journey started in Interlaken, Switzerland, where we began orientation. It was a 3-day period before we moved on to the Amalfi Coast for a couple more days. It was summertime in Switzerland and the country is just as beautiful as the pictures, and as you can imagine, it was clean, it was green, it was absolutely beautiful. During this orientation, we went on jet boat rides, and I actually stayed at my first hostel. The hostel was called Balmer's. After a few days in Switzerland, we took our buses all the way down to the Amalfi Coast in southern Italy, where we got a taste of what guiding a trip would really be like. We explored Sorrento, Positano. I got to see the Blue Grotto, as well as the island of Capri, with all the celebrities' yachts and all the houses that they live in on top of the hill, the stuff you see in movies. After orientation, we got divided up into Florence and Rome teams, but since I'd already lived in Florence, I got to stay there. We lived in dorm-style apartments right in the heart of Florence. I had a few roommates and it was an absolute adventure. Although I got along with my co-workers pretty seamlessly, I must confess that learning the American student was a different type of education. These student groups ranged from anywhere from 7 students to 400. Obviously the 400 groups had more guides involved with them, but the smaller groups I used to take by myself. So you're probably wondering, how did we actually keep track of all these students? Well, the trick was different colored wristbands for different trips and different hostels. And well, these are the wristbands that they wore, and this way we could keep track of everybody. So what trips did I actually guide? Starting out, I did multiple trips to Cinque Terre, which in English stands for 5 lands, and they consisted of 5 different little coastal towns. There was Monterosso, Vernazza, Corniglia, Manarola, and Rio Maggiore. And there was a train that connected all these towns, so you got to see all of them if you wanted to. We also had a hike that went from the 4th to the 5th town. I also guided trips to Venice and Verona. In Venice, we explored all the alleyways as well as the surrounding islands, including Murano and Burano. Here we got to see how glass was made and the glass blowing process. Burano is a picturesque town known for its brightly colored fishermen's houses and its casual eatery serving seafood straight from the lagoon. In Verona, we got to see their Colosseum as well as Juliet's balcony, where the Romeo and Juliet story was based upon. Here there was a love wall where people stuck their notes from their lost loved ones, as well as a bubblegum wall where people just stuck all their gum. There was just a variety of different bubblegum. I guided tours around the Perugia Chocolate Festival, where different chocolate makers from around Italy come and you can sample all the different types of chocolate. I guided Tuscan wine tasting tours as well, where we got to sample wines from even the cheapest to the most expensive. We visited San Gimignano, the town of towers, and it's also claimed that they had the best ice cream in the world here. It was really good, I'm not gonna lie, but to say the best, well, I'd have to test a few more ice creams in my lifetime. I did a few trips to the Amalfi Coast, where I mentioned earlier We visited Sorrento, Positano, the island of Capri, as well as Pompeii, where the massive volcano Vesuvius comes from, the one that just decimated towns a couple hundred years ago. In Sorrento, we had deals with all the pubs and restaurants, so we could eat and drink for free. And I just got to taste a whole range of different Italian food and just eat like a king. We did a company tour to Oktoberfest in Munich. It was just a one-night thing, so we drove up there, we spent the night at Oktoberfest, had a good time, got back on the bus and drove back to Florence. Oktoberfest was absolutely mental. I guided a trip to Barcelona where we got to see the Sagrada Familia, Park Güell, Las Ramblas, and the insane nightlife that Barcelona has to offer. After Barcelona, our bus took us up to Paris, and I guided 2 trips while I was there. We got to see, excuse my French pronunciation, but the Champs-Élysées, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, Sacré-Cœur, and my favorite was Versailles. Versailles was one of the most awesome places I've ever been to, and I cannot wait to go back there again. The sheer size of the palace, the gardens, the history is just so rich in everything that is involved with it. I guided a tiny group of 9 students through London, and during my time there, I met up with other South African friends that lived in the city and managed to get a lowdown of the city before I actually guided the trip. We saw the Tower of London, Big Ben, Tower Bridge, Buckingham Palace, St. Paul's Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, Camden Town, and I even did an awesome Jack the Ripper tour, which went into extreme detail and showed you some of the places where his victims were actually found. The final trip I did for Bus to Alps was to Budapest, or as I should say, Budapest. We did a Danube river cruise. We got to see the parliamentary building. We visited thermal baths where the temperature in the air was around about 0, but the baths were sitting at about 20 degrees Celsius, and these were all outside. We went to the Rhön bars at night, and these bars were some of the most incredible nightlife I've ever seen in my entire life. Just the sheer thought and history that goes into these pubs was truly something to see in your lifetime. So who did I meet during my time at Bus to Alps? Well, there are really too many to even try and name. We did so many things around Florence together. We tried new restaurants. We explored the city with a bottle of wine, found new monuments that were hidden, little secret corners of Florence that not everybody sees. We tested new places in the surrounding non-tourist areas, watched the sunset over Piazza Michelangelo, and during my time there, I even got to watch a South African rugby game versus Italy in Florence. Watching that rugby game ended up being a game that is actually put in the history books. It is the first time Italy has ever beaten South Africa in a rugby match. As sad as it was to see South Africa lose, it was super exciting to see Italy really beat South Africa. Well, I am a dual citizen, so I kind of just swapped sides and put on a different jersey, but nobody was looking, so it's fine. I ended up only doing the internship at Bus to Alps, as I wasn't making too much cash, and so I needed to move on to something a little bit more profitable if I was going to stay in Europe. So it was now December and my internship was coming to an end. My flight home was soon and I had no idea what I was going to do in 2017. But I had to figure out a way to stay in Europe. And well, the world works in mysterious ways. And so at the year-end function for Bus to Alps, I met a man there who ran Vespa tours through Tuscany. And I got speaking with him and he agreed to let me come and try out some of the Vespa tours to see if I would like to be a guide. And so I went on 2 Vespa tours with this man and I absolutely loved them. And so I agreed that I was going to go home for 2 months and then I was going to come back and run the Vespa tours for him. And so I landed in Bologna in February 2017 and I made my way up to Florence. The man I was working for gave me accommodation for a month and I was starting work the next day. This man essentially ran a bicycle shop in Florence and they rented out and sold bicycles, as well as doing Vespa tours through Tuscany. So what I did for him was that I used to drive the clients half an hour outside of Florence where we'd used to run the Vespa tours from. We used to ride these Vespas for around 2 hours before settling down in a castle where we used to have local cheese and wine and have a massive lunch before heading back to Florence. During my free time, I used to hang out with all the Bus to Alps friends that were still in Florence. And I made friends with all the new guides that were there for the spring semester. I ended up hanging out with these people for 6 out of 7 days of the week, and we used to have an awesome time in the city. After a month, I found a new place to live in Florence, It was essentially a closet with a tiny bathroom, but in an amazing location, right next to the Santa Croce, one of the major churches of Florence. I lived with another South African man named France, and we used to ride around the city and do all sorts of shenanigans together. Sadly, during my time running these Vespa tours, I found myself running the bicycle shop more than actually running the Vespa tours, which was not what I had signed up for. So after 2 months of working there, I told the man that I was leaving. After quitting the Vespa tour place, I spent the next few weeks just chilling with my friends, partying, and trying to find something else to do. And after 2 months, well, that's where part 5 begins. My bartending journey at an Irish pub in Florence. If you enjoyed this leg of the journey, be sure to give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing so that you can continue my adventure with me. I'll catch you later, friends.